My name is Dean Page, and I'm a certified life coach. I help my clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. I've also had the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people. People who have had unique careers, built up businesses, and triumphed through adversity. So one day it dawned on me, why not put the two together? Why not start a show where people can tell their stories of building success and rebuilding from adversity, with the intent purpose to encourage, inspire, and inform others who are working on their goals to fulfill their dreams. Or if I only knew what to call it. Maybe I should make a list. Wait, that's it. The Dean's List. Kinda has a nice ring to it. So I hope you join my guests and I on this upcoming episode of The Dean's List. Hi, for those who know me know that I'm a musician and also a life coach. So needless to say, I was intrigued when I met somebody who said that they were a musical therapist. Talk about taking the best. Hi, that'd be alright, that would be my dog, one of the dogs, Faith. Talk about taking the best of both worlds and combining them. What I wasn't expecting is how amazing the conversation was. Usually we get to talk to, get guests ahead of time and kind of go through things. So this way we just did a brief overview, and consequently you're going to get a lot of live reactions just because I was so intrigued with what they were saying, especially the part when she talked about music and the impact it can have on both Alzheimer's and autistic children. Just absolutely blew me away. So I hope you join me for today's guest, Leah Clark-Joy, and I will also say that she is as genuinely nice in person as she is on the video. Leah Joy, how are you today? Well, tonight.
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited about this. Obviously, I love the music end of it and helping people. So I'm really curious about learning from you tonight on this.
Well, thank you for having me. Excited to be
Really. So probably the best thing to do is let you discuss a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so music therapy, for those who may or may not know, it is the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship. And the idea is to meet the individuals where they're at, regardless of background, religious orientation, and skill set, and be able to build individualized goals and objectives from there, utilizing what they already have and can bring into the sessions that can therefore give them new skills to carry over into everyday life.
So it doesn't sound like a cookie cutter at all.
No, it is, think more pottery, clay. It's malleable. You get to create your own piece. The type of clay you use is going to be different based off the individual. And I think that's just one of the many beautiful aspects of it. Within, say, standard talk therapy, there's kind of a cut and dry format. But with music therapy, not only do you have the addition of music adding that extra layer of support, kind of takes the pressure off. Am I saying the right thing? Do I have to say I'm feeling this thing this specific way? And again, just meeting that person where they're at, not trying to change or detract from their uniqueness, but instead celebrate it and support it and carry it forward.
That's so powerful. I actually wrote that down when you wrote that, when you said where they're at. I know, even though it's different with life coaching, it's not so much, sometimes people think of it as mentoring. Okay, step A, B, C, D,
Mhm.
and be like me. I probably don't want to be like me. To A, B,
Wow.
C, D. Instead, it's more like you ask questions and you listen very attentively, obviously. to what's going on there and bringing out the questions. So they basically come up with their own. Um, then there'll probably
Exactly.
be a little more buy-in. When you say, because I'm curious, when you say, initially, right in the beginning, where they are at,
Mhm.
how do you determine that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's various forms of assessments that you do. Pre-assessments usually look like physical abilities, musical abilities. They're not required, but we do like to know, oh, this person took piano lessons from the ages of 4 to 10, or this person hasn't touched an instrument at all. And within that, we also do, it kind of depends if there's a medical diagnosis as well. The assessment will look different to fit them there, but usually just that kind of thing. And then family history, any, like I mentioned before, medical diagnoses or verbal limitations, always in consideration because I do have a couple individuals who are nonverbal and use devices to communicate. So it really does kind of depend. But yes, we do pre assessment to determine what the needs would be, then therefore the goals and the objectives to follow.
So then again, it sounds like you really cater it to the individual to bring them out versus, um, okay, you're either part A, part B, part C. That's the three options.
Yeah, correct. And in group settings versus individual sessions, there will kind of be an umbrella. So the overall goal of the group would be socialization, turn taking, and physical movement, let's say. But then from there, I filter it down further and I think, oh, well, Ed here, we really need him to say the name of 3 people. Well, Martha really just needs to move her legs today. And so then from
Uh-huh.
there, the overall and filter it down, and you try to make then those opportunities and moments for that to happen within the group.
In the group setting, do you find sometimes that there's a synergy with that? When you're talking about maybe individually, somebody may be challenged to do this or do this, like what you were saying with the names, or move the physical different stuff. Do you find there's a synergy that happens, or do you nurture that at all?
Yes, there is something called the ISO principle that various therapists like to practice out of. And what that means is when you come into a group, you whatever their energy level is, high, medium, low, organized, sleepy, quiet, we meet them there to start with. And from there, naturally, you get a feel of where we're kind of going. And sometimes I won't even have to create those opportunities for turn takings or socialization that will kind of go naturally through the music where so and so will say, "Oh, hey, may I use the maracas?" "Oh, of course." And they'll trade. Or, "Oh, I like your sneakers today." Things like that. And then I'll build off of it to expand more and create more opportunities for the interaction, for the movement based off of where they're at and where they're going.
And if I would think if they're saying that, like, "Hey, I like your sneakers," then that means they're safe. They feel safe to be able to say that. So you're building from a safe place.
Correct. And I also then don't want to put someone on the spot by asking them a question when they've said hello. That's all they've said. And so it kind of helps me then gauge who is going to be more active and who is going to be a bit more passive so that I know what kind of moments and space to create for them.
Well, that makes sense because if somebody is already passive and nervous and a little withdrawn, putting in a scenario where this person's saying all this stuff could put even more pressure on them. So it
Mhm.
sounds like you have to be pretty, I guess the word is empathetic, but also you have empathy, but also very sensitive to nonverbal cues and verbal cues, sounds like.
Yeah, I the way I like to word it is you have to be very on. You really have to walk into a session, group or individual, and leave your stuff at the door and be able to be present and truly engage because I've seen colleagues before in my internship, they'll go and say, "Oh, good morning, so and so. Your hat looks great." And that client will look them dead in the eyes and be like, "You don't mean that." So they're very intuitive. They will call you out, some populations more so than others. And, they have awareness just as much as you and I have awareness. Their demonstration of it just may be different
Hmm. Right, because if they, especially if somebody comes back and says, "Oh, you don't really mean that," especially if it's true, now you just lost credibility with them.
Yeah.
We used to do something when I used to teach martial arts. That was one of the things we used to do. I always called it praise, correct, praise. Find something correct,
Mm.
find something good, correct it, correct something different, and then build from there. For other names for it, but I prefer the praise, correct, praise. But that was one of the things I always said: don't lie, don't BS, because they'll see through it or they'll stop trying. Don't say that is the best
Hmm.
front kick I have ever seen in my life. And it's not. I'm going to demonstrate it when, like, yeah, let's not knock over the table. You know what? I loved how you kept your hands up. Well, that part may be true, or I loved how you looked in the right direction. And again, you're acknowledging what's true, but you're not. Kids are a lot sharper than people think sometimes.
100%.
um, you had sent me a thing, kind of an overview, which helped. It seemed like, and maybe I'm wrong, but part of the services or a benefit is, seems like you can help clients process maybe or deal with different emotions.
Yes, and particularly in my internship and working in more hospice care, you're also able to work and partner and process with family members. And that's huge because not a lot of the time are you able to sit with someone who's actively dying and sing songs from their childhood or sing songs that they sang with their child, and their child is sitting right there and can give input and hold their loved one's hand and say, "Oh, we used to sing this song in the summer around the campfire when we would travel and go to XYZ place." And I really love that. Again, it's not only the individual, but then within this kind of stage of life, you can incorporate the family. And I had never experienced that before. And it was really such an humbling and honoring and sacred space to be in, specifically when someone's in that final steps to transition from this life to the next, whatever that you believe that looks like. And it kind of made me take a step back and think, wow, what other field, what other occupation allows you to do that without the pressure of just sitting there in silence and hearing the beep of the monitor and here comes the nurse to check again, but can create life within that darkness. I had never really thought of it that way. And so to be in it and actually carrying it out was really special. And you process with that individual leading up to the stage where they're not able to really be 100% lucid, and you get to know them so that when that time comes, you have the equipments, you have the information from the family, and you create this culminating experience for everyone. And it's really, really special.
It's just so powerful. Totally got caught off guard by that. it You're actually kind of doing a double duty because I want to say comfort resolve maybe with those who are coming near to the end,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also at the same time helping the people that have to deal with that person coming to their end, at least here on Earth. And it sounds like you're able to take from both ends and do, like, especially with the memories, positive
Mm-hmm.
memories, so that, I mean, that is not sad, but it's not tragic because now you can still remember, and hey, we did do this, or hey, we
Mm-hmm.
did that. I mean, that's totally, totally powerful. I'm an emotional pup. I'm trying not to go.
I know. It was,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. All those things.
The What about like children um, who say have problems controlling their emotion? Not just children, but we'll start with children who may act out. Is that anything that you get involved with too, or?
For me, right now, I do work with children. I work with kindergarten to middle school and the special ed programs in my district here. And yes, there are a lot of behaviors that occur, but something that my supervisor said to me in my internship is that behavior is a form of communication. And I think particularly with these children is with the various levels of developmental disorders or on the autism spectrum, the way that they communicate is going to look different. And in this area, it is a lot of behaviors. So even though they may be throwing a shaker at me, I really try to make myself just sit and think, okay, well, what's the intention behind it? What's the communication? Is it actually anger? Did you want my attention and I missed it and you threw the shaker instead? Are you just thinking, oh, can I throw this thing? There's many, many reasons. And so in the past, of course, your gut instinct would be, okay, well, no more shaker for you. You're done. And instead, I do try to say, hey, what's going on here? We have a quick little check in. It just slipped from my hand, or, oh, I wanted to throw it. Sometimes it is as simple as I wanted to throw it. Okay. And then from there, I also have the added support of the TAs and behavioral techs in the room with me, and I'm really grateful for them and their expertise. And they really do mitigate and put out the fires for
Mm-hmm.
me. And very rarely does it get to the point where someone has to leave the room. But like I said before, it's just really, okay, well, what is the intention behind the behavior? Even if the behavior is upsetting to me, and that probably, 75 times it is negative, but the other, 30-ish% is they had a different intention than the way it was carried across. So,
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best instruments, music instructors, and compositions. But what about overcoming the challenges that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next. I've talked with from when I used to teach martial arts, and even now, just different things with parents with sometimes high-functioning autistic kids, and sometimes maybe not high-functioning. I'm not sure what the exact term would be, but that was something that they were saying that sometimes they may act out, but they're not acting out because they're trying to be, whatever. It's that they're trying to communicate, and the way that they're trying to communicate is either blocked or it's not coming through or it's different than other people. And so what it is sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's that frustration of trying to communicate. And that's what it sounds like you recognize. And through the music, you're able to, that and being incredibly patient, you're able to help with that. Is that accurate?
yeah, it really helps to redirect. Most of the times I can go into a song or go into an improv just to redirect the group's energy and attention. And we can, for the most part, move on from it fairly quickly. There have only been a handful of times where, as I mentioned, the kids did have to be removed and take a break from the session.
But that's not the norm. Where a lot of times
No.
it's, again, you fit into this box, this box, and if you don't, too bad, which is a
Yeah,
tragedy to say the least.
100%.
So it's a little bit of a music question. A long time ago, I was playing bass for a guy who did local shows and stuff like that. But he was telling me one day that like each key has its own, I think he called tenor, but each key has its own feeling, vibe. I don't want to say personality because that sounds odd, but do you know what I mean? A motion. Do you find
Yeah.
that at all?
Different
Yeah.
keys. Yes, 100%. And to an extent, I would say some people we play or we play sad songs, and which has a lot of more minor chords, and they love it. That makes them happy.
Interesting.
But
Because they can relate to it?
I, I not really quite sure. I wasn't able to dig in it more with them at that time, but I think because of the memories that they have associated to the song and the experiences
Okay.
versus myself when I think of XYZ sad song, I don't doesn't always make me smile. But I think too within those keys at times the different modes, Dorian, Phrygian,
Mhm.
Lydian, I have found that in improvisations are really impactful and create the room to also then get the client involved because in those modes and keys you're only working with 7 notes, usually all white or usually all black, and then from there that small container actually opens a lot of doors for self-expression and then releases the pressure of I have this whole piano in front of me or I have this whole chime scale. No, no, no. You just have these notes and sometimes they'll say, "Oh, actually this sounds too happy." Okay, let's swap it out. Let's throw in another key, another mode. Oh, I like the way this sounds better. Perfect. And so I think again it's one of those things where it's very
Hmm.
individualized. And I really find it interesting how, E minor, this person loves E minor. Oh my gosh, I can't stand E minor. I don't like E minor. But I love E flat. Oh, okay. So it really is so unique and I love it. But I have noticed that sometimes certain keys win over another.
So they actually play the instruments then.
Yeah, at times for
Okay,
sure.
missed that part. I thought they kind of watched and you played. Or maybe it's a combination.
It can be a
Okay.
combination. So in music therapy, there are various methods. And so things such as receptive methods, and that would be where they're listening, I'm facilitating a lyric analysis, a discussion
Oh,
after,
wow.
or it could be, okay, I have a bunch of ukuleles today and we're going to work on the following songs. And oh, at the end, I thought it'd be fun if we started to work on our own songwriting, improvisation on the piano, improvisation with percussion, boom whackers with the kiddos. They really love that. For those who don't know, they look like pool noodles, a light plastic, and they are built in scales. So they all have a note, and you hit it on the ground, you hit it on your chair, makes the sound of that note. They love it. So it really depends, which is why my background, I have been taking voice lessons since I was 7. I'm a voice primary in college. In my program, I had to audition for my music school as well as the program. And I went to Montclair State University where I was required to take secondary instrument training in piano, guitar, percussion, even conducting. We take choir as well. It's a rigorous course, but now I have these little pockets of knowledge that when a child walks in and says, "Oh, I'd like to bring my cello to the next session." Okay. Or, "Hey, can we pull out djembe?" Yes, we can. So that way I'm again able to meet them where they're at. Sometimes we do things with just shakers, things that are a little bit more basic, but it really then opens doors for them to be supported not only therapeutically and verbally and with my presence, but also musically.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the artist that has a lot of different paints or colors on their palette. And they may not use them all, but if they need this one for the combination, they have it. Uh, and
Yes.
now when you were talking about your schedule, I'm like, yeah, what do you do in your spare time? Yeah, I appreciate that one. Um, I gotta ask, what's your favorite key? What's your favorite key?
Hmm. I like E flat.
Interesting.
And I also like A.
A's kind of a power one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like D. Surprise, right? But it's interesting because as you're saying that, when you said A, I'm immediately thinking of like the rock, well, the 70s, 80s rock, or 70s, the power chords. Like, yep,
Mm-hmm.
all that type of stuff and the different things.
Yes.
I just, not to be totally random, but do you know when you said ukulele, I kind of laughed. Immediately, I thought of Don Ho in the Hawaiian thing with the, Tiny Bubble song. And what's his name? Tiny Tim. It's not so tiny, but Tiny Tim
Yeah,
with the
tiptoe
tiptoe
through
through
the
the tulips.
tulips.
Immediately thought of them playing, thought of the song, thought of where I was as a kid when I saw them.
Exactly.
Is that what's part of the thing when you're talking about the association?
Yes, and particularly with, I would say, older adults, not that I'm trying to call you old at all, by any means.
Listen, half the audience is Googling Tiny Tim. Was that the guy in Christmas Carol?
You're funny. So, particularly with, I would say, older adults with various forms of dementias, that is huge.
Oh, wow.
And I had the opportunity of spending 6 months up on Mount Desert Island, which is Bar Harbor, Maine. And I worked in the secure unit mainly. And so that is really impactful. It's amazing. You'll mention a key word, for example, ukulele, or you'll even talk about a season. You'll mention an artist.
Mm.
And then from there, people are like, oh, yeah, that's right. I was 17 and I had my first album, and it was, you know, Glenn Miller or nope, Artie Shaw.
Yep.
And then from there, everything kind of flows out of it. So it's really conversational so at times, and that's great because again, the space to be heard, the space to be seen, the space to relive those moments. And oftentimes in my group, someone would say one thing which would then trigger a memory in someone else and say, oh yeah, I was also had that album and I also listened to da 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 down the line. And so they're kind of doing it themselves naturally, and I'll sort of just kind of offer support or other leading questions that can open it up even broader and make it more inclusive.
That's just such a fascinating topic. I got to tell you. I'm not being polite either. That's just, wow. As you're saying stuff,
Thank
I'm
you.
going, all this stuff makes sense. I know, like, Bon Jovi has said, a lot of people actually really believe there's a Tommy and Gina who living on a
Hmm.
prayer, that some of his songs were they became real characters in people's minds, living on the docks.
Yeah.
Not old enough to do the Glenn Miller, but I'm Bon Jovi. Yeah.
A lot of very unique older songs now in my back pocket from working with older adults
Oh,
and
that's smart.
learning what they like and what they would have listened to growing up because your teenage years, those are the most impactful on your memory musically.
Really?
They find research finds that in those early, very late stages of Alzheimer's dementia, oftentimes the preferred music choice will be that of their teenage years. So it's funny, I sit and I think, okay, when I subconsciously or just casually put in a song, what year of my life am I prone to listening to? And I do find it is that around eighth grade into junior year of high school zone that I listen to quite a bit, as well as, of course, the new things I enjoy now. So it's very interesting.
Explains why that age group is targeted so much.
Hmm.
Marketed to it. Maybe I should say marketed, not targeted. Well, kind of combination.
Targeted marketing.
Yeah, right. Thanks. YouTube's going, what's he saying? Um, I would think when you were talking about an older person, older than me, thank you, and they remember Glenn Miller or Artie Shaw and all
Mhm.
those, and they start, or Benny Goodman, and then they start go, oh, I remember this. Oh, you know what? And let me tell you about this. Oh, this song was like, isn't that like stirring the brain and causing activity? Is that like a almost like a muscle being used that maybe those areas weren't?
Yeah, I think for sure, definitely getting those neurons firing because Alzheimer's is a various form of dementia. They all follow under the big umbrella of dementias, different forms, Lewy body dementia, etc. The list goes on. And it's a brain eating disease, unfortunately, that does result in death. So their gray matter is deteriorating, which men makes it harder to do everyday activities, speak, sing, walk, eat, swallow. But within the brain, our hippocampus, there its resolved job is to hold memories. It's where memory storage is. And they find that music, whatever XY things about it that all the smart people know and studies I've read, look into it, it's very fascinating. They say it much better than I am about to, but it causes the hippocampus to kind of light up. And then from there, kind of trickles out to the rest of the brain and gets those parts moving again. And that's where that memory recall comes from. And whatever that connection and relation it has into music, it just partners so well. And it's not sitting there, I'm asking you, do you know where you live? Do you know what day it is? But I could do it with a song and say, oh, well, and we're going to sing Carolina in the morning, but we're not in Carolina, we're in Maine. Particularly, I offer that then to the group. Oh, we're in Bar Harbor. Exactly. So we're going to sing Nothing Could Be Finer Than to Be in Bar Harbor in the Morning. So not only did I get you to acknowledge where you are location wise, we're going to work on reinforcing that through music. And how many times do you have a jingle in your head constantly on a loop? I have the Alka-Seltzer jingle in my head quite often. So naturally by engaging and having fun there, we get them to work on thinking and processing and comprehension naturally, again, without the pressure of this is the right or wrong answer clearly. you know?
That is intense because you're getting you're getting them, or helping them, I should say, use their brain or stimulate the brain in a way that's not frustrating to them.
Mm-hmm.
With the memory, it's one of those, like you were saying, hey, what year were this, what this. By doing that, it triggers it, and it seems, if I hear you right, I don't want to say less threatening, but less clinical.
Yeah.
If that's how it is. I'm trying to do questions, but I'm going, this is just really fascinating. How does this all tie in? You have the dream, desire, and talent. Guitar player has the riff, drummer the groove, bass player the vibe. The band has it all. And then you try to do a project. I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com to see how life coaching can help you design a project plan that works with your group strengths. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.